Hey guys, Tammy here. And today, this video is titled Money Can't Buy Everything. Okay. And this comes from a quote from my late grandmother. And she used to always say, money can't buy everything, but it'll get you uptown where everything's at. Okay. So that probably tells you everything you need to know about me right there. I think that the point of this is that, you know, part of what leads to success in family court is kind of knowing where the bodies are buried, right? Kind of knowing where everything's at, knowing who the players are. You got to get yourself uptown, right? So money can't buy everything, but it gets you uptown where everything's at. So you got to get yourself uptown where everything is, so to speak, in the court system and learn all about it. And so how do we do that? Because money can't buy knowledge, right? All the money in the world doesn't help you understand the court system. That's something that you have to do for yourself. And if money is a struggle for you, as it is for many, many people going through this, then you may be in a position where you're having to do this yourself. But regardless of whether you're doing it yourself or even if you're hiring an attorney, you still need to understand all the different components. And I think a lot of times people that do have resources and money for an attorney, a lot of times are kind of more hands off. They'll sort of just hand everything over to an attorney and just go, okay, fix it. And it's like that they can't. Like, you got to invest the time to educate yourself and understand, what the key factors are and what things will help your attorney. I had a client I was sitting with, him and the attorney, a few days ago, and he said, I've got hundreds and hundreds of pieces of evidence. How do I know what would be helpful to you? And the attorney's answer to that was, well, you don't really, as you're sitting there now, but probably Tammy would know, somebody else in my office would know, and there's probably 7 or 8 key things that you may have out of like the hundreds of pieces of information. And so why are we able to do that? How do myself or other assistants or whatever learn what that is? Well, mostly from experience, but also from the theory of your case. What is it that is, if I sat and said to you, okay, you had to give me one main problem out of your case, what is it? Okay, maybe your main problem is the other parent isn't showing up for their visitation. Okay, let's just take that for an example. So, um, so maybe your main theme is going to be that parent's not involved, right? Okay, so maybe that parent's asking. I have one case actually right now where the other parent's asking for significant visitation time. Only, my client keeps saying the other parent hasn't been involved. My client's mom in this case, and she's like, he just hasn't been involved. He hasn't been around. He hasn't been there. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't been involved. And now he's questioning, she homeschools. So he's questioning that. Well, I don't think they should be homeschooled. Well, you weren't here. Oh, well, you wouldn't disclose where you live. I didn't know where you live. No, but you do. We have had these conversations in text. In a case like that, if that's your overarching thing, then that's what you have to start to sort your evidence by, right? So you go through your evidence and you say, okay, what are all the examples I have of him not showing up, so to speak, not being here or canceling visitation or not responding when I send a message about school or different things like that. And so you would want to go through and look for that. And so a lot of times it's helpful to ask the attorney, like, what's the theory? If you're working with an attorney, what's the theory of the case in your mind? And if you're not working with an attorney, then you have to figure that out in your own mind. What's the theory of your case? Okay. Once you figure out that, then you figure out your points, and then you kind of have to stick to those things. Like, what happens for most people is they have these like core 3 or 4 points, but then they've got these 5 or 600 other points that they want to give also. And that's not helpful. That's called overwhelming your judge. You want to get to your core and stick to it. And all the other things become the extra pieces, right? Like think of it like your body, right? Your core. Like if you say, okay, I'm having all these back problems, I am going to work out my core. I'm going to start with that. So we're going to do core exercises every day. If on day one I say, well, I'm going to do my core and my legs and my arms and my back and my this and my that, then I'm probably going to get up the second or third day and be like so sore I'm hobbling out of bed, right? I can't move anything because I tried to do all of it at once. Whereas if I just start with my core and then I can gradually add other things in as my core strengthens, right? That's kind of the same thought you have to give this is the core is the focus. Are you going to get a chance to add extraneous things in? Maybe if you get, custody evaluator assigned to the case or an attorney for the children or there's therapists involved or all these extra, you know, experts, then sometimes you can kind of go outside of that. But for the judge's purposes, you need to figure out what those core arguments are and stick to them. And then the way that you sort of figure out where everything's at beyond that is, I would, number one, go watch your judge. I say this over and over, and it's the simplest, easiest, free thing that you can do. You can literally call the court and say, hey, when does this judge have motion hearings? When does this judge have a trial? I would like to come watch. And they might tell you can't. And then you just simply say, well, yeah, if it's a public hearing, then with all due respect, I'm allowed to attend, and then you go and you watch multiple times, honestly, if you can. And sometimes it's helpful to watch other judges too, just to kind of get what watching a different judge will do is it'll give you that contrast of how much of this is procedural stuff that I'm seeing from my judge and how much of this is my judge's personality and way of moving through the world. And so watching two different judges will give you kind of that perspective if you have the luxury of that time. But at the very least, you need to watch your own judge. And I think you need to do that even if you have an attorney, whether you have an attorney or you don't have an attorney. If you don't have an attorney, it's really important so that you understand the procedural part of this and you understand what is upsetting and frustrating for your judge, how they like to run their courtroom, what order to talk in, how long most people talk for, time it when you're sitting there, time how long an attorney takes to present their side and the other attorney presents their side or whatever. If you don't, if you aren't representing yourself and you do have the luxury of having an attorney, this still is going to tell you a lot about what the judge is looking for, what the judge finds credible, how to speak when you're in front of them, what the challenges are going to be for your attorney, how long they have to speak. I was with a client the other day where he kept saying, you're only going to have 5 minutes. You're going to have 5 minutes. You're only going to have 5 minutes. You're not going to have time to get all that in that you want to get in. You're not going to be able to tell your whole life story in 5 minutes. Okay. The other thing that you can do is go to the law library. And so many people that I talk to are like, law library? Like, I didn't even know that existed. And this is different than a regular library, right? It's a law library. So it's specific to that. A lot of times they're near the courthouse or attached to the courthouse or the same general vicinity. We have 3 here in San Diego, and they're all near our 3 of our courthouses. Actually, we might have 4. Anyway, you definitely have a law library somewhere in your county, no doubt. Even if it's part of the regular library because your county is very small and it's incorporated, there is still going to be a law library in some fashion. And that's where attorneys go to do research and look up procedures. And, there's all kinds of great books and resources. And especially if you're self-represented, I mean, I'm sure that most of us have thought to go to the regular library if we're self-represented and maybe find books on custody or divorce or whatever. And there's some great resources out there, but it's going to pale in comparison, especially procedurally, to what a law library is going to have. And a lot of things that you can research as far as case law is electronic at this point. A lot of those research programs are electronic and not books, but most of them are subscription services. So you can go to your law library and they will usually have subscriptions to all the different case law search software that you can sit down and use, because in each state, our appeals cases, our appellate cases is what they're called, are what's used to sort of set the standard for interpretation for the judges of various situations. So if you can go and find an appeals case that is similar facts to your case, it'll kind of give you a good idea in that decision of what things the court is going to be looking at and evaluating in your own case. So those resources can be really helpful in helping you either one, understand as a self-represented person how to legally put your case together, or number two, as someone working with an attorney, what things you can provide to your attorney that are going to be helpful in this situation. Okay? If you'd like to learn more about my coaching services, please go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's a link on that page. You can book a free 15-minute call with a member of my staff to learn more about how I might be able to help you on this journey and for you to learn more about my coaching service. Okay? See you guys next time.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the